Alright guys, another day and we are back for some more Championship transfer rumours. You guys have been smashing the support on this series so far, so a massive thank you for that. Always my favourite videos to make, and we've got plenty of transfer rumours to dive into today. But before we get into any of them, let's first off go over some managerial news. Following Vincent Kompany's move to Bayern Munich, Burnley have put Craig Bellamy into the role of acting head coach while the club scouts out their next managerial target. There have been some Burnley fans who would be on board with giving Bellamy the job. Obviously, he's been the understudy to Kompany there over these last few years. There were rumours at some points that Bellamy might have been following Kompany to Bayern Munich, but that's not since happened. And speaking of the Burnley job, there are plenty of managers being linked with that role right now. We've seen Frank Lampard being linked with the Burnley hot seat. Carlos Corberán is reportedly a boss who's admired by the Burnley board. Scott Parker, another name that I've seen thrown in there of late. As of recording, it's still Craig Bellamy who's actually the favourite to land a permanent gig. Ruud van Nistelrooy, another manager that I've seen linked with the Burnley job. Plenty of options out there for the Clarets right now, and I'm sure those interviews are going to be taking place over these next few days and weeks. Speaking of Carlos Corberán, it's not just Burnley who appreciate the West Brom boss, but Leicester are also interested as well. Following Enzo Maresca making that move from Leicester to Chelsea, the Foxes are in the hunt for a new manager. Probably not that surprisingly, Corberán has popped up on their radar. A tremendous job he's done with West Brom over these past couple of years. These next few days could be quite telling in where his future lies, especially if one of Burnley or Leicester make a concrete move for him. Speaking of managerial appointments, we've also seen Norwich City hiring their new boss. Johannes Hoffthorpe will be the new man at Carrow Road heading into next season. And do you know what? I'm really quite intrigued as to how this appointment goes. He's only 35 years old, so will be one of the youngest bosses in the Championship next season. He's coming over from Danish football, doesn't have a wealth of experience behind him, but seemingly a good track record when it comes to developing youngsters. Norwich clearly wanted to try something new this summer and go in a separate direction to David Wagner, that sort of football from last season. Norwich fans, be interested to get your take on this one down below. And another bit of confirmed managerial news that we have had in the Championship is Hull City appointing Tim Walter as their new boss to replace Liam Rosenior. Now, it had been rumoured for quite some time that Walter had been their number one target, and so Hull have been able to get this one over the line. He's just coming off the back of a 3-year stint at Hamburg in Germany, and I'm very interested to see how that appointment goes. You'd imagine Hull are going to be quite ambitious this summer once again. Going off last season's expectations, you'd imagine that it could be top 6 or bust for Walter. In terms of some done deals we've seen go through in the Championship over these past few days, we obviously saw Luke Ayling completing his move to Middlesbrough on a permanent basis. Nice bit of business there from Borough getting this deal done and over the line early on. Ended last season in really good form, Ayling. We also saw Plymouth completing a deal for Nathaniel Ogbeta. He's coming over on a free transfer. Spent the second half of last season on loan with Bolton, and it's an interesting one. He's coming over from Swansea, never really got that much of a chance in South Wales. 23 years old. I think it's fair to say Bolton fans had a bit of a mixed view of him during his loan spell there. Definitely didn't have a good performance in the playoff final against Oxford, did he? But did produce a few decent performances in there. He got 6 goal contributions from that wing-back position for Bolton in the second half of the season. Still just 23 years old, so at an age where Plymouth can look to tap into maybe a bit of that potential that hasn't always consistently come out of him. I'd be interested to see how that one goes. But enough of that, let's now hop into the transfer rumours. We've seen Everton being linked with a move for Luton forward Elijah Adebayo. Chipped in with some decent moments, to be fair, in that Premier League campaign. Did get into double figures, scoring 10 goals in the end. Not always the most prolific of forwards, Adebayo, but a good all-round forward who's good at quite a few aspects of the game. You'd imagine Everton will be looking at someone like him as a potential backup option to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. 26 years old, I'd be interested to know how much Luton would value a player like Adebayo at right now, and whether or not Luton fans would be happy to cash in this summer. It's no secret that Leeds United want to get Joe Rodon back for next season, but there's another shark in the water because Southampton have also been keeping tabs on the Spurs defender, according to reports. Now, Rodon last season was one of the outstanding defenders in the Championship. That run of games in the second half of of the season, especially when it was Rodon partnered with Ethan Ampadu. The pair were absolutely just like a brick wall together. Nothing was getting past them at one point of the season. Doesn't look like he's got much of a long-term future at Tottenham, but the North London club looking for a fee of potentially upwards of 12 million. It could be an expensive one for a Championship club to pull off. With Southampton now being back in the Premier League, you'd imagine they got the edge over Leeds in that deal. Quite a funny report came out the other day linking Chelsea forward Armando Broja with a move to Watford of all places. Along with Watford, the likes of Monaco and AC Milan reportedly also in the race for the Chelsea forward. I wouldn't imagine that Watford are at the top of that pile for Broja's signature. I'd imagine there'd be quite a few others that are ahead of them in the pecking order. Interesting in the first place though that Watford have been linked with him. There had been a little bit of speculation relating to the future of Jay Rodriguez. The Burnley forward had been linked with a few Championship clubs, but he has put pen to paper and signed a new deal with the Clarets, putting an end to any of that speculation which had linked him elsewhere. Sheffield Wednesday have been linked with a move for Brentford defender Charlie Goode. He's not had a great few years, I think it's fair to say. Not actually played consistent first-team football since probably 2019/20, since making the move to Brentford. Obviously not had that much of a chance there, and then some pretty uninspiring loan spells out as well. Hardly kicked a ball during his loan spells with Sheffield United or Blackpool, and then the spell he had at Wigan last season didn't exactly set the world alight in that time either. He's 28 years old though and is being looked at by Sheffield Wednesday going off the latest reports. A deal that I would be really excited about from Sheffield Wednesday's perspective though is a potential loan move for Karamoko Dembele. He's coming off the back of an excellent loan spell with Blackpool in League One. 8 goals and 13 assists for Neil Critchley's side last season. One of the best players in League One for me. Great dribbler, creative numbers are absolutely fantastic and can play in a few different positions as well. He's currently on the books at Brest, and Sheffield Wednesday have reportedly made an inquiry seeing whether or not the French club would be happy to let him go out on loan once again. From Brest's point of view, you'd imagine that they might look to cash in now if they are happy to offload him while his value will be so high on the back of an excellent spell with Blackpool. But he's definitely a player to keep tabs on. He absolutely ripped things up in League One last season. Sheffield United are being linked with a move for Leicester City defender Harry Souttar. They were heavily linked with a move for the towering defender in January, but that move didn't materialise in the end. With Sheffield United coming off the back of a campaign where they've just conceded over 100 goals in the league, it makes sense that they're looking to bolster up their defensive line. Now, as it goes, Harry Souttar, a defender who I still hold in really quite high esteem, he didn't really get that much of a chance last season. Wasn't really a natural fit, I suppose, into how Enzo Maresca wanted to play, and he had his preferred partnership at the back, didn't he? With all that being said, at Championship level in particular, I think Souttar's an absolutely fantastic defender. He's proved that previously at Stoke City. From a Sheffield United perspective, that's definitely the sort of signing I'd be all over. Joe Worrell, another defender who has been linked with Sheffield United of late, doesn't seem to have much of a future at Nottingham Forest. He spent the second half of last season on loan at Besiktas. Right now, it seems a move back to the Championship is probably more than likely for the 27-year-old. Matt Ritchie will be available as a free transfer this summer. There had been some suggestions that perhaps that romantic move back to Portsmouth could be on the cards. Ritchie has previously spoken about his desire to return to Portsmouth one day, but according to local press from the area, it seems unlikely that Ritchie would be returning to Portman Road anytime soon. Given the recruitment model there, it seems like they'll be assessing other targets. But a move to the Championship could still be on the cards for Ritchie. I've seen the likes of Blackburn and Millwall being mentioned. He's 34 years old now, didn't play a great deal of football last season, but would bring a wealth of experience to any side that he was to sign up for. Hull City is still plugging away in an attempt to get a deal over the line for Manchester City forward Liam Delap. We've already spoken about Delap on quite a few of these videos so far. I'd imagine quite a few other clubs will be interested in the forward, given the promise he showed during that loan spell with Hull City last season. Delap clearly enjoyed his time at Hull last season though, and if the money is right, you'd imagine Hull would be in the driving seat to get this sort of deal done. A big one from Fabrizio Romano. Crystal Palace are reportedly in talks to sign Jobe Bellingham. He's one of their priority targets coming into this summer, and will be very interesting to see how Sunderland navigate this sort of situation. Now, if the Black Cats were to cash in on Bellingham at this point, it's fair to say they would make a sizable profit on what they originally invested in him. I believe they spent around about 1.5 million to get him out of Birmingham in the first place. Still a very raw player, but played a hell of a lot of football last season, a lot more than I originally anticipated him to. He got 7 goals and 1 assist, played quite a few different roles as well, as a false 9, an out-and-out striker at times, or even deeper into midfield. You'd think Sunderland would be looking for upwards of 12 million as a bare minimum to sell Bellingham at this point, potentially with a juicy sell-on fee inserted in that sort of deal as well. Let's not forget he is under a long-term contract which is valid until 2027. But I suppose that's the nature of the beast when you have Sunderland's recruitment model. When you do buy these young and promising players and they come off the back of a good campaign, it's part and parcel of the game that there will be this Premier League interest in them. But guys, there you have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Any other transfer rumours that we missed in today's video, make sure to get them in the comments down below. Other than that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.